Welcome to Hello You. Yes, you. The podcast that opens up the full spectrum of mental health like never before. We're not here to skim the surface. We go deep into every corner of the human experience. From international athletes to high-powered CEOs, everyday heroes to global change makers. Our guests bring raw, real, and radically different perspective on what mental health really means. This is your space, a place for truth, stories, and connection. Whether you're thriving, surviving, or somewhere in between, we're here to remind you you're not alone. So pull up a chair, take a breath, and let's talk about the stuff that matters. Welcome to the most open, honest, and inclusive mental health conversation in the world. I'm your host, Dan Darwin, and welcome to Hello You. Hello You would like to thank our title sponsors, the Loss Prevention Department at Next PLC. And welcome to another episode of Hello You. Now, again, this is a little bit of a different episode in the terms that it's just me, no guest. But I thought this is very apt to do this. It's Mental Health Awareness Month. And honestly, I've been thinking about what that actually means. And I think in the past, I've been quite outspoken about Mental Health Awareness Month, Mental Health Awareness Days. I think that we are talking too much about having these days, these months, when mental health is all year round, 365. But let's jump on that bandwagon. Let's put something out there and let's prick these ears that are already up listening for people who are promoting Mental Health Awareness Month. Let's get more people on board listening to the true messages, because I think, if I'm going to be honest, we talk about Mental Health Awareness Month, we talk about Mental Health Awareness Days, but we just talk. And I think it's slowing down. I think what we're actually doing now is we're talking more, and there's not enough actually that comes out the other end of this. So if more people are listening to this, great, because it's Mental Health Awareness Month, great. But let's take action, like Mental Health Awareness Month is saying this year, take action. And I think take action means that great to keep talking about stuff, and it's great to promote mental health awareness and the positivity around mental health, and working together, building communities, learning how to cope, which I'll talk about more as we go through today. But we need to take some action now, because that's the bit that's slowed down for me. But the reality is there's people out there still suffering in silence. So even though we are talking more and we are having more awareness, a lot of people are functioning but struggling. I think we show up, but we're not always there. We're running our businesses, we're going to the gym, we're running our day-to-day lives, we're looking after family members, we're smiling for photos for social media, but in reality, we're exhausted. And I think that's more what I want to say today. This isn't going to be a polished version of mental health like you might see on social media. This is my view, my opinion on where we're at. And in reality, there's a lot of pressure day to day, a lot of stress, burnout, and there's people suppressing their emotions. And that is what mental health look like every day. I think one of the biggest things that I've realised are there are so many people carrying burdens and mental health issues, and they don't let them on still. And it's right to, not everybody's got to talk. We all promote that talking is great, but some people just aren't ready to talk. So they've got to find other ways to unburden themselves. I find that sometimes just writing things down, getting them out of my head, nobody ever has to read it. It can go through the shredder afterwards, but there are other ways around it. But there are so many people out there still struggling along, carrying along these issues every day, and they don't know how to unburden themselves. And I think the strange thing with mental health is that people always assume that you're coping, because if you look outwards and that view you give people is that you are coping, people assume that you are. They don't know what's going on internally. And that's the thing, we don't know what's going on internally with anyone. If I could pick a superpower, it probably would be, I want to know what's going on in people's minds. What are they thinking? but we can never truly know what another human's thinking. You could spend your whole life with another person, and yeah, you might get used to their behaviours, how they react in certain situations, but can you ever know what they're truly thinking and feeling? No. So we don't know. And we sometimes assume, we look at people and go, look at what's going on in their lives. You know, they're smiling, they're happy, they've got so much going on. They must be okay. They must be doing all right. But that doesn't mean they're not struggling. You can be productive and still be struggling at the same time. You can be ambitious and burn out at the same time. You can be surrounded by people and still feel isolated. And I think, especially now, there's this pressure to continuously keep moving, keep improving, keep working, always achieving, always staying strong. And I think sometimes your brain and your body, really, because the two are so entwined, they pay the price for that. They pay the price for trying to put in too many hours in the day to keep achieving, to always be working. And after a certain amount of time, we go into like a computer, we go into survival mode. And it's like we can only do basic functions just to get through our day to day. Again, pushing that outward view to the world that we're doing okay. Stress is normal. We need it. It's a human function that we need. If we didn't have stress, we wouldn't have fight or flight. Without fight or flight, humans would have gone a long time ago. So we need an element of stress. But when that overwhelming stress becomes normal to us, that is a bad sign. You know, that overwhelming demand that's placed on us, that's too much stress. And if we start accepting that as normal and accepting exhaustion as normal, running on empty is normal, then you're going to forget what calm feels like, what actual a good mental health feels like. We're going to forget it. And being a man, I do think men's mental health is still something that we struggle with in this country. Well, in every country. Mental health first aid was a concept that was conceived and originated in Australia because they were having too many people die by suicide, and especially men. Men are still 3 times more likely to die by suicide than a female. And no matter what we've been doing, we haven't changed those stats. We keep promoting mental health. We keep promoting awareness. And this is where I think it's really key to take action, because at some point we have got to take action. Those stats have got to start dropping. I think still as a man, not going to the doctors, that big ego thing of I haven't been to the doctors for 10 years, that's a badge of honour for a man. We see expressing emotions as weakness, and that we've got to stay strong. We've got to be the breadwinner still. We've got to lead by example, by being strong and never falling down. Don't show those emotions. We can't have failure. We can't make a mistake. If we make a mistake, that's weakness. And we keep things in as men. I've got to deal with this myself. I can't tell anyone because that would be a sign of weakness. And over time, I think, especially as a society, if we keep breeding that, then we are going to lose more and more good people. We're going to lose more and more men to suicide, because you become good at masking, good at hiding how you feel, good at suppressing emotions, good at hiding any sort of vulnerability. And at the time when we do need to talk and we do need to express these emotions, we don't. We hide it, we withdraw. And we don't show people we're struggling because that's the weakness. But we've got to stop. Instead, we go withdrawn, we go in ourselves, we become quiet, we become irritable, emotional, we shut down, we push our loved ones away. Sometimes out of stress comes anger, anxiety, numbness even. And I can say from my own personal experience, all of those came out at my time of depression. I pushed everyone away. I didn't want to talk. I saw all emotions as weakness. I thought that telling anybody would make me less of a man. I'd be a failure in my family's eyes because I couldn't cope. Everyone else around me could cope. I could see it. They're all going on. And I come back to that point I made earlier, that you see other people and you think they're doing so well. And I think when you are in that situation internally, you're looking at it going, do you know what? I really do need help. But I can't get that help because everybody else is coping, so I should be coping. And you don't understand why you're not. And as a man, it's even more difficult because then you've got to take that next step and break that silence and speak to someone. But I think this is what I mean by taking action, is that we have got to find a way to make it easier for men to talk. We've got to find a way of supporting people through. And I know we talk about this, and a lot of people are supportive and they would be there. But I think if you actually asked a room full of people, how would you start that conversation with a man that's struggling? I guarantee it's a small percentage that actually know where to start with that. And I think that's where we've got to be better at taking action. Turning the talking, the listening into the action that keeps these people on the planet. We're not taught in school how to express emotions. I think that's a massive error that we make there. I think we teach a lot of stuff in schools, but I think we should be going into our schools and talking about how we express emotions. And I'm not talking about let's teach kids about mental health per se. I'm teaching them that emotions are okay. Humans are supposed to feel emotions. They are what protect us while our brain processes what's going on around us. And we've got to teach people that just because you're sad doesn't mean you're depressed. That there's a pathway that it takes to move along before you head into those mental health issues. But sadness is something we're allowed to feel. Joy, jealousy, embarrassment, anger, frustration. They're all emotions that we are allowed to express. And understanding that if we allow emotions to sit within us without that expression, they become heavy. And that is what can develop into our mental health issues. But I think that teaching kids that emotions are okay, humans need to express them, and it's okay to feel sad, it's okay to feel jealous because somebody else has got a toy that you want to play with, they're fine. Let's teach people how to talk, because then when we get to 16, 26, 36, 56, talking about emotions is already built into us as a system. It's there. A bit like we went through with equality and diversity inclusion, I think we need to start doing the same things with the mental health and teaching people emotional language, how we express these emotions. And I think that could be one of the strongest things that we can do. I think it really can help, because when we carry everything, eventually it's going to catch up at some point. Our brain is going to go into survival mode at some point because it can only take so much. Stress is one of those factors. We can only take so much. Resilience in people is different. So you can't say it's going to be this that breaks someone. But over time, eventually, it will catch up. Everybody's different. Every brain is different. But we are going to feel it at some point. And I said earlier, the two are entwined, mental health and physical health. I've said this so many times, they are the two sides of the same coin. And I've become more and more aware over the years of how connected they are. Stress doesn't just stay in your head. It will find a way of manifesting physically, whether it affects your sleep, your digestion, energy levels, hormones, recovery time. It will find a way of getting out there. It will then distract you. It will become your focus because it wants to get out. It's trying to tell you to deal with it. And if it can't do it through your brain, your mental health, the mental connection there, it will find a way, and that could be physically. And again, we go back to assuming if somebody is physically healthy, then they're not struggling with anything. Because if they look fit, they look healthy, then they can't be struggling. But again, that's not always reality. Just because someone looks good on the outside doesn't mean they're good on the inside. I can honestly say this month of May, maybe even before that, so many times where I actually feel physically very fit and I feel good with my energy, but internally I felt overwhelmed, exhausted, drained. But people would probably look and say, you're just busy. Again, busy is good, but when it becomes the norm, you forget to give yourself that calm time, that time to reset. And busy can't be our norm. Because otherwise we are going to end up emotionally, physically, and mentally exhausted and drained. And then that just leads to the problems that it could go into mental health issues. I train most days. That helps me. That is a coping strategy for me. But it's not the be-all and end-all being physically fit, is what I'm trying to say. The physical side of it is just one side of that coin. And I've got to look after the mental side too. Okay. I think sometimes I use fitness as a therapy, definitely. And I'm sure lots of other people do too. But I think sometimes I use it to hide. I use it to forget everything. So I don't have to face it right then. I've used it as well in terms of if my mental health is bad, I know that going to the gym sometimes is a good release for me. But then I've also faked injuries, so I don't have to face any of it because I'm worried that what if the physical side lets me down? What if I can't train how I was training last week because mentally I'm not there? If my physical side then lets me down as well, I'm going to go into a spiral because both sides of that coin are going now. And how do I control that? And that runs through my head. And there's been times where I've not gone to the gym, which I need to do sometimes for my coping, but I haven't because I'm worried and I become anxious that what if my physical side lets me down? What if I do get a really bad injury and I'm out of the gym again? Or I can't train, I can't do anything because it became very important to me. I've learned a lot, I think, over the years about how those two things go together. But we still have to keep working all the time. It's the boring stuff, I think, for me. Coping strategies are the boring stuff. The maintenance stuff, that's the boring stuff. Doing the basics consistently, making sure I sleep properly. My routine. Anybody that tells you they don't have a routine, they're lying. They will have some sort of routine because humans love it. We love it. We crave routine. Exercise matters to me, as you can tell, and I've spoken about before, but it's got pros and cons, and I have to be always alert to how I'm feeling. I ask myself all the time, why have I made that decision? I do like to reflect. Having good people around me as well helps me reflect because I can talk to them honestly. And sometimes it helps me work out what's going on in my head. Having that rest time, that time to pause, to reflect, that's one of the things I've learned to slow my life down sometimes. Life goes past so fast. And sometimes I create a boundary where I say, I need a day today where it's going to be me time. And that's not being selfish. That's a boundary that you need to have sometimes. Because life does go really fast. Everybody is vying for a piece of you. And I think sometimes you need to just go, today is a day where it's me time. I'm going to do a few things that make me smile. I'm going to rest. I'm going to reflect. I'm going to go for a walk and have a coffee and just listen to nature, get outside. Okay. I think we spend a lot of time as people and we drain ourselves to keep other people happy. We try to help people that aren't ready to be helped yet. And I always go back to saying, sometimes you can pour your energy into somebody else's cup. You drain yourself and they don't want that energy from you. And all you've done is left yourself absolutely empty. Protecting yourself isn't selfish. It's a necessity. And ignoring things, ignoring stress when it builds up, it doesn't make it disappear. When I go to the gym some days just to forget that stress, it's not gone. I've distracted myself. At some point, I've still got to come back and deal with it. It's going to show up somewhere. eventually, whether it stops me from sleeping, it makes me sick in the terms of I can't digest my food, I'm anxious. It's going to show up somewhere in my body, in my mental state, in my relationships with people, in my motivation to do stuff even. And I think that's one of the key issues as well, is that when we talk about taking action, sometimes that means taking action ourselves. We wait too long to take action. We talk about it maybe. I'm going. I think my stepdad always used to say, I should have been called I'm gonna Darwin. Because I think that was my phrase when I was a kid. I'm going to do this. I'm gonna do that. And there has to come a point where you take that action yourself, because only self can change self. We wait too long, we hit rock bottom, and then it becomes overwhelming trying to get that support. It just seems too much to reach out. The simplest thing like a phone call or a walk to the doctors or anything seems just a bridge too far, because we've let it go and we've let it go thinking it's just going to disappear, and these things don't. And I think when we hit rock bottom, that is tough to claw your way back. Things don't just go. Life's going to keep throwing stuff at you all the time as well. And I do truly believe this in the fact that the universe can only say yes. And if I sit there, keep saying, I've got too much on my plate, I can't deal with this, the universe is just going to keep saying yes. And it's just going to keep putting more on my plate that I can't deal with. If I say yes, I'm going to help myself, because only self can fix self. I am going to do this. Then the universe says yes. And only self can fix self. Yes, you are going to fix yourself. I think it wouldn't be a mental health podcast where I'm talking about awareness if I didn't actually speak about social media as well in this. I think social media has changed the way we experience everything in this world. Having kids myself, I think their life is governed by social media. I think if you ask them to come off of social media, certainly at certain ages, they would feel their world is ending. I always see it as my generation use social media. And believe me, if I didn't have to, I wouldn't. He says, sitting in front of a camera that's going to be put out onto multiple social media platforms. If I didn't have to do this, I wouldn't. And I think that's a generational thing as well. I think that we haven't grown up with this. It doesn't feel as comfortable. Where I think my kids, their kids, and the generations going on from that, they are 360 immersed in it. It is their world. They see no difference. They're used to being on camera. And I always talk about the fact that when I was in the police using body-worn cameras for the first time, people not understanding what they were, not really experiencing it, CCTV still relatively new. If you switched it on, people were very nervous, very anxious around it. I think how much that's changed now in the last 20 years, you are so used to being on camera, whether it's whatever you're carrying around on your phone, CCTV, people's body worn. And the reaction is now, when something happens, is that people suddenly start recording or taking photos, and not just for memories, to place on social media. So it's definitely changed us as humans, us as a community. And I don't think it's always in a good way. We spend a lot of our time now doom scrolling, comparing our real life to someone's highlight reel. We compare ourselves all the time. We look at other people's successes on social media, their relationships, their bodies, their lifestyles, and we compare ourselves to that. It's not real. People only post their highlight reel, like I said, on social media, the perfect slice, that sugar-coated, lovely piece of cake with a cherry on top. They rarely post true anxiety, true loneliness, the sleepless nights, the stress, the uncertainty, the fear. That we don't see that. That's not what people post. They don't post the realities of day-to-day life or how we live with these stresses, these mental health. We show the good stuff. the things we want people to see. And for me, comparison is the thief of joy. You cannot compare your life to anyone else's. You certainly cannot compare your reality to somebody else's highlight reel, their best bits. We can't. It's going to steal every bit of joy from our lives, and we are all different as humans. We all experience this world differently. We all perceive things differently. And I think when we look at social media, we end up feeling like we're behind. And I've done it. I've done it as a business owner. I've looked at other people's businesses that are in the same sort of infancy as mine, or the same sort of maturity as mine. They've been running the same amount of time, or they've just started up. And I've looked at them and thought, how are they doing that when it's taken me this long to get to this point? How have they got this? Why didn't I get that? How has this person ended up doing this when I know I can do it just as well? And you compare. And for a long time I did that when I first started out in business, until I realised, actually, that's not always true. What you see is not always true. We take it at face value though, social media. In a world of deepfakes and AI, we still take social media at face value, and there's a lot of people that will believe everything they see, and they don't look at any research. They don't look at what's happened when the camera's off. And really, we have got a focused view. Maybe if you open that up into a wide lens and you see what's going on behind the scenes, like the video I watched the other day where there's 3 people at the end of the room and they're throwing pens into a glass that's about, 20 metres away. And from the angle that I'm looking at, they all take a turn throwing one pen, and every pen lands straight in the pot first attempt. They then zoom out so you can see what is actually happening, and there's someone sat behind the glass dropping a pen in time with them throwing it. The pen they throw goes miles past the glass every time. So we're comparing our lives to face value, taking that at face value, that highlight, when in reality, everyone makes mistakes. Everyone has this roller coaster life. Everybody is dealing with something, but we can't always see it. We see a filtered version of their reality. And I think sometimes as well, taking a break from that is a great coping mechanism. For me, look, if you're listening to this today, right now, everything in your life is really heavy. Maybe you've been overwhelmed. Maybe you've been emotionally exhausted, maybe disconnected from yourself. I want to say this to you. You don't have to pretend you're okay all the time. You don't have to carry everything all on your own. There are people that would be willing to check in with you, your friends, but check in on yourself. Remember, mental health isn't just about crisis. It's about the everyday habits, the conversations and support that help keep us grounded before we reach that breaking point. In terms of coping strategies and things like that, when we talk about this, coping strategies, we make it overcomplicated because we use the word strategies in there. 10 minutes every day. That's what you need to reset your brain. 10 minutes to empty out that stress bucket that's in your head that overflows with the things that life throws at us. And life does throw a lot at us. That little tap that drains that bucket can't always deal with everything that's thrown at us. And at some point, it will try to overflow. We need 10 minutes every day. Do something that makes you smile. Do something selfish that's just for you. If that's take a 10-minute nap, because that's what you need, that's what you do. If it's get out in the garden, look at things that are happening in nature, experience everything else. Even if it's take your shoes and socks off and go and stand on a bit of grass and reconnect with the earth. Because we spend so much time walking around this planet with the soles of our feet not touching the ground because we've got trainers and socks in between or shoes and socks in between. Reconnect with nature. If that's what would make you happy. Take your dog for a walk. Stroke your cat. Colouring in. Paint by numbers. I can go on, the list is endless. For me, music is a massive release. It can change my mood instantly just listening to a song. Not only does it spark a bit of nostalgia, but for me, there's certain songs that just put a smile on my face. But the key result is be selfish, do something just for you for 10 minutes. You've got time to make 10 minutes for yourself every day, because it is about taking action, and only you can take action to fix self. And if nothing else comes through from you listening to this podcast today, it's take action, be selfish, put that boundary in place, and look after yourself. I want to say thank you for listening today. I'm going to close this episode of Hello You. And if it has resonated with you, if you're struggling, please speak to someone. Conversations genuinely can change lives. Thank you for listening. Take care. I'll see you on the next episode. Thanks for being here, and thanks for being you. This was Hello You, where real conversations create real change. If today's episode moved you, challenged you, or simply made you feel seen, then share it, talk about it, and be part of the ripple. And remember, no matter where you are or what you're facing, you're never alone in this. We're building something together, and there's always room for you. I'm Dan Darwin, and until next time, be kind to your mind, be kind to yourself, and hello, you.